What caused banks to tank? Silicon Valley Bank held billions of dollars worth of treasuries and other bonds, which is typical for most banks, as they are considered safe investments. And usually they're held long term or sold when there's an emergency and banks need cash. That's what happened at SVB, and those bonds were worth a lot less when they sold. The Department of Financial Regulation in Vermont oversees banking here. I asked the commissioner about that. How do Fed's interest rate hikes play into all this?
Yeah, it's a great question, Darren, but what any bank has to keep an eye on are changing interest rates. And once interest rates start changing and going up to the extent they have recently, banks have to have different strategies to reposition their portfolios, to have hedging strategies against interest rate hikes. And that's what normal bank governance involves. It didn't happen in this instance because there was a recent demand for deposits, and that liquidity was not there. It was not out, and they were not having other types of sources of revenue. So Vermont banks, their balance sheets, and when we examine the banks, there is an interest sensitivity test that we conduct to make sure they're governing and they're aware of those changes in interest rates and their portfolio is reflecting those changes.
What about small banks like the newly formed Bank of Burlington? What kind of regulations do those face?
Well, I mean, there's no different than other state banks that we regulate. The Bank of Burlington is certainly an entity that we took a lot of time and diligence to work through their plan of operations and approval, and coordinated that work with the FDIC. So, the Bank of Burlington, like a lot of our banks, are there. Their niche is small to mid-sized commercial businesses. So, they and other banks serve an important function to provide small businesses an opportunity to have the capital they need to establish their business and or grow their business, hire the employees they need. So all of those functions are regulated by us for state chartered banks. There are also federal chartered banks that are regulated by the feds. But where there's coordination is that there's Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation coverage for all those banks, and NCUA, the National Credit Union Association, has a similar deposit insurance mechanism. And that was one of the things that was an issue with SVP. Their uninsured deposits, you've probably heard this term being discussed. It's basically the portion of their deposits that's in excess of the $250,000 per account protection that's offered under FDIC. So in many banks, that ratio is 50% thereabouts. SVP's uninsured portion was over 90%.
DFR Commissioner Kevin Gaffney, thank you. Be well.
Take care. Thank you.